What is going down, everybody? We are just getting ready. Thank you so much for showing up. We should have a lot of fun with this one.
Music's in the air. So give me that night. Dit is zeker liefde. Alex, man.
I was feeling myself a little bit. Yo, what is going down? Happy Saturday,
Oh, it is
everybody.
Saturday. It is Saturday.
I've been thinking it's Sunday all day long.
I don't know what day I feel like it is. I feel like it's summertime. That's what I feel like.
How you feeling over there?
I feel good. I'm excited. I haven't had a chance to talk about this show to anybody. So
Yeah.
I'm like really hype about it, to be honest with you.
All right, Rekkai is in the building. What's going on, champion?
Hello, governors.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you feeling over there, man?
Man, I'm feeling all right, man. I'm glad to finally be able, now that we finished the series, to be able to, like MC said, to talk about it. Like, let's go.
Yeah. For those that are pouring in here, this has been one of those shows that has constantly been on my socials. You know, it's just people have just been like, "Hey, man, who here is watching?" I feel like everybody's asking the same question, like, "Who out here is watching forever? You all watching forever?" It still hasn't like hit like the mainstream. It's a lot different than like when me and Rekkai we did a show called Adolescence, right?
Right.
And Adolescence was so big, it was so large that the government was like, yeah, our citizens need to see this. Our for school children need to see this.
School children?
Yeah, well, parent and have a conversation. Now, obviously,
in England, they the government made Netflix free so that they could watch it in the schools.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, obviously, this isn't the same type of show. It's dealing with totally different things. But I'm just saying, like that. There's levels to the type of marketing that's been going on.
Okay.
I guess I'm coming full circle to say that. Like,
okay. I'm there with you for that.
On one level, you got the government, like and on us for forever. I didn't see no advertisements. I only heard about it through socials, and then of course, when you go to the streaming. Top 10s, it would show like what was on there.
I think that's how I found it.
Other than that,
I think.
How about you, Rekkai? Did it hit your social strong?
It did not hit my social strong until after we had posted the first episode on YouTube. I had saw it a while back, and I was like, okay, hold on, Regina King.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
that might be something.
Yeah.
But that was before it came out, and I was like, you know what, Syntell, we might need to cover this for the channel. But there's always so much stuff in the queue. It's like, ooh, add another series. I don't know, And then when it got close, I think like right after it started, you came back and said, yeah, it's all over my socials. We got to do it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm down. So
I think for me, what did I see? I saw like a little article somewhere that was talking about Black women projects.
Okay.
And so of course I always am looking for those. So I just tried to see like what it was and what type of things were out. And I was like, oh, and then I think it was like 2 or 3 days before it actually popped up on Netflix.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, let me watch this, which is why I didn't watch it with you guys.
Yeah.
Because I was on it. I was like, oh,
you're the one that told me. You're like, are you watching Reverend?
Yeah, I was like, I'm watching this. And then, some shows I have the patience to kind of be like, oh, okay, I can wait for you. And then other shows, I'm like, oh no, homie, I'm watching this. This is good telly right here.
Yeah.
I do know. I know a few women who watched the entire, who like for real binged it 2-3 times in the first weekend it was out. I was like, for real?
Oh.
I was like, it's like
Yeah,
that. It's like, yeah.
That's a lot. I could not find the time for that. I wish I could have, but I did. I mean, it took me 2-3 days to watch the entire series, but I did enjoy it. So I'm like I said, I'm just super excited to be here.
Well, I'll say this. I do think that we needed you on this reaction. Don't get me wrong.
Clutch my pearl.
I do believe that me and Rekkai did a very good job.
I heard you guys
and I think
job.
we had like a really good perspective to kind of like tackle this.
Yeah.
But it did require a woman's touch for some of the little areas. And I was telling Rekkai, I was like, we probably need Mikel-Claire on this live when we do decide to come up with this.
Well, I feel like some things need the touch of a lady.
No,
I'm kidding. No, real talk. I heard you guys did an amazing job, which is another reason why I was a little jealous that I didn't get to have conversation with you about what you thought and your perspective and those kind of things. Because I'm sure it would have been not only good banter, but I'm sure we wouldn't have agreed on a lot of stuff, which would have been, which would have been
how we fight.
Oh, absolutely. Which would have been awesome. Especially with this topic and these things that were seen and displayed and shown and all the things. I'm sure we would have had quite a different perspective on it. Yeah.
Well, Rekkai was one of the main people that was like, "Yo, we should kind of maybe do a live on this." I definitely co-signed on that. I said Mikel-Claire should be here to kind of do it because we would like to give the community a chance to kind of like
absolutely
maybe talk about some hot button topics. Which is great for dealing with stuff in the community because we are not shy to criticism and standing on the stage and being like, okay, we're reloaded, but this is different because it's community.
This is community. What about accolades?
No, and we got Rekkai here as well. So with this AMA, or typically stands for Ask Me Anything, but for Ask Us Anything. For those that watch the show, if you had any questions, concerns, things that we might have missed, maybe things you want to ask Mikel-Claire to maybe help explain some things from a feminine standpoint or from a standpoint of a mom, more importantly.
Or as a mental health professional.
A mental health professional as well. Yeah.
The things.
You got all the stripes over there. You got all the stripes over there. We wanted to make sure that everybody got that opportunity, and we're gonna freestyle it as well. It's gonna be pretty, just a lot of fun. We'll probably be here for at least bare minimum, we'll get like hour and a half. And the rules are pretty simple. If you put it in the chat, we will try to get to it, but depending on the pacing and how fast everything goes, it may take a little bit of time for us to get to your question. So if you do have a question and you're like, I need to get this answered right now, that's what the super chats are for. By all means, use them to your discretion on depending on how bad you want to reach out to us. Rekkai, do you have any quick thoughts before we start hopping into this bad boy?
Yes.
Go for it.
Here's the one thing that I do want the three of us to remember. As we remark on this, as we talk about this, we talk about from the standpoint of a mental health professional, as fathers, as mothers. I think I want us to also remember, because there's something about having that post clarity, wisdom, the experience that we all have. Remember that we were once young teenagers ourselves. How did we navigate love and adolescence, and what lessons have we learned to impart this little bit of wisdom? Because sometimes I say stuff to my teenage kids, it goes in one ear and right out the other because it comes from me. But maybe when they hear the exact same thing I just said, when they hear it from MC, when they hear it from Syntell, maybe it'll register, it'll resonate a little bit more because we actually have been through this, and it's one thing to comment about something when you're in the middle of going through it, but it's another thing once you've been separated from a while and you can think back, that 2020, hindsight is 2020. You're like, ooh, yeah, I should have handled that better or differently. So I want us to remember that as we move through this as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's important because I think obviously when I was watching it, my perspective was as a mom because I am a mom, and I definitely related to the mom that was to Justin's mom a lot. in a lot of ways as I'm raising, co-raising, whatever you want to say, a Black male adolescent.
Yeah.
So it is important for me to remember that and not view it as like I'm the mom of Justin. Like maybe, I mean, I was not Keisha, but maybe, as seeing it more from the perspective of an adolescent.
Okay.
Female versus a mom of a male adolescent, because that is a very different perspective when you're watching this show.
Yeah. All right, so let's kind of get things started just a little bit. Just off the top of your heads, what is it about this series that stands out for you?
For me, it stood out because, for one, it didn't play into the stereotypes and tropes of what we normally see on TV. TV is almost these days run by reality TV, and reality TV that's actually not real. And the more you allow into your system, the more you take away from that, because you think that is what is normal. That's what other people like. That's what's getting the ratings. So this must be normal. And that colors how you act in society. And there's a lot of that I don't want my kids to act like none of that. I mean, I understand it's part of where we're at in the world today, but that's not what I want for my kids. And I think that this was a very healthy look at not only parenting and the Black family and the Black situation, but also how to navigate love and adolescence as you're in the middle of dealing with your own traumas and mental crises or your moments. So,
okay.
I think for me, I feel like they did a really good job in giving it the perspective of the adolescents, like of this generation, right?
Okay.
I feel very far removed from this generation in a lot of ways. And I think the first time that I really discovered that was when we watched Euphoria, another
another
show.
Very different.
Yeah. I mean, it's different, but in the same way, like it's from the perspective of that generation, right? So it's things that we may not know about as parents, or we may not think about as parents, that our kids are going through now when you're looking at social media and I'm gonna block you and all these things, you know what I mean? That or like videos that go viral or are released that aren't appropriate to be released to everyone. Like it gives us a perspective of that that I appreciate, because as a parent I need to know those things. But then as having been an adolescent at one point in time, I had to deal with some of those things and some of those traumatic things without social media. So I still have that background and experience, but it gives it a whole other level when you have like the social media and things being on different platforms that are easily accessible to the public.
Okay. All right. I think one of the things that kind of stands out, I agree with all of that, with what the both of you are saying, just in order to shake things up and sound a little bit different, because you both gave some really good points. The thing that kind of stands out for me next is that this story is originally done by a white woman. Judy Blume, OG Judy Blume. When I was a kid, I read Super Fudge. I read Tales of the Fifth Grade Nothing. I read Ramona Forever. All of those. So she was a big staple in my early reading developmental years and stuff. And when I read her stuff as a kid, I didn't think about it in terms of, Black or white or rich or poor. I just saw like these interesting characters that I really enjoyed to my young mind, and she just found a way to make me feel welcome in these stories. This is a retake of one of her books, and it's done in the light of the culture, Black folks, and I like how universal her story is. Like, this probably could have been a story told by an Asian family. This probably could have been a story told by a Latino family. But of course, when you bring the culture involved, it makes it a little bit more unique to those dynamics. But at the core of it, these are very human things. These are very real things that any family can experience. So I thought that was nice, that you could take something from the core of the ideology of this white woman that I adored as a young child reading her stuff, and it still remained relevant today, with a Black-centric focus and focus on the culture as a whole. So that kind of really stood out to me.
Yeah, and I found it fascinating that it was that's what was chosen,
Yeah.
right? Like, was that actual story, and because you wouldn't think that, like, if it was my first choice, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a series based off of a book,
Yeah.
right, about adolescence.
Probably not high on the list,
I mean,
right?
it wouldn't be the first one that I go to. I'm not saying that I didn't thoroughly enjoy it, but if I were choosing, so I'm curious, what that process was. But it did play out very well. But that just would not have been my first choice.
Yeah, it was interesting. Let me address the chat real quick. I thought this was an interesting question, more geared towards you.
Yeah.
MC, as a mental health professional, what is your opinion of how they portrayed a Black male with ADHD?
Sorry, we laughing. We know why we laughing.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there were some things that I feel like that are very symptoms that you acknowledge and think of with ADHD that are like in the forefront, right? Like when he was writing his paper in the beginning of the whole, or doing his homework in the beginning of the whole series, right? And how he was struggling to focus and things like that. And he did have some difficulties in his classes, and just things like that. So I do feel like they did a fairly good job with that. I mean, because that wasn't the entire focus of the story. But I'm glad that they addressed it, and that they did have those little nuances of symptoms that we are all aware of, or well, I would assume we're all aware of, but let me not say that because I don't want to assume. Okay. That are very prominent symptoms of ADHD. So I did appreciate that, but like I said, I did appreciate also that it didn't take over the entire show, but it did say, hey, these are some things that are also issues that he's struggling with that can also play into how he has his relationships, how they develop, how he addresses certain situations. So you do have that, like, kind of in the back of your head. Yeah. That, oh, okay, well, maybe some of that does have to do with his ADHD symptoms, right? Like oh, maybe he did forget to call, or maybe he doesn't remember your birthday, or maybe maybe maybe. So there are things to consider, and as a male adolescent who's trying to go through these things and may not be aware of all the things that come along with it, I did enjoy that portrayal. Okay, now in case you all don't know, Rekkai is a former teacher, and has had to deal with students that deal with a variety of neurodivergency. Rekkai, did you have anything that from your space of expertise that you would like to add? Yeah.
That shit was so funny. Like everybody don't know it. I picked up on it in I want to say the second episode when the teacher pulled him aside. He couldn't focus, and the teacher pulled him aside to let him know that he had 20 extra minutes or whatever to work on a test. And I was like, okay, well, they're showing he has an accommodation. So that's he's either on an IEP, he's got a 504 plan, he's got something that accounts for whatever his particular condition is. And I want to say that seems like one of the first times that I've seen that on TV where it's not done negatively and they make a big deal out of it. Like it's opposed to something, especially as you mainstream a student in a class, the whole thing is to make them feel comfortable and safe and that they can work. So, the teacher pulled him aside and, whispered to him, like, hey, you have extra time. So don't worry about it. Just wait till you finish. And I was like, oh, that's excellent. Because on top of that, just being in the teaching profession so long, there's a lot of teachers that know that you have a IEP, you have a 504, and they don't do shit to help the student. They'd be like, well, it's on you. It's on you to ask me or tell me that you have additional time or whatever. They don't care about any of that. And then the other way, like MC said, the small nuances of how they show that throughout the rest of the 8 episodes, without focusing on it, making it seem like there is something wrong with Justin. There's nothing wrong with Justin. He just learns, he processes differently. And a lot of times we have a hard time dealing with different, i.e., welcome to America.
One thing, and I think piggybacking off that as well, I think that at the end, when he was writing his essay, right, and he was talking about ADHD as his superpower. that resonated quite significantly because it's how you view it, right? It's how you view the things that make you an individual, that make you unique. Like your learning style doesn't mean that you have a disability. It means that you learn differently, right? And it's not our job to figure out, how to adjust to that. It's the people who are educating us to figure out how to adjust to that. And we may have, and as parents, a lot of times it's our job to advocate for that, which, a lot of us, we struggle with some of those things. And I'm just very glad that they brought a lot of that to the forefront, and they showed the supportive mother. They showed the supportive father. They showed, that we're really pushing, our community is really pushing to support our children and whatever that looks like. And that part I thought was beautifully done.
Okay.
And just on that right quick too, I do want to point out too that I don't know if he did. It didn't really seem, but I don't know if Justin knew or thought of his ADHD as his superpower until Keisha pointed it out. So
yeah. Oh, that's interesting, huh?
That's a good question. Oh! Am I responding to that?
Yeah, go for it.
Part of me feels like I don't feel like his parents made it seem like it wasn't.
Okay.
Because they were very supportive. They were very they were motivating him to reach full potential, all the things. So if they didn't view it in that way or have him view it in that way, I don't think that he would be able to even realize that, even if it was pointed out by Keisha. So I feel like he did probably know in some way, but how we were just talking about earlier, sometimes it takes somebody outside of your parents or somebody, that's told you a million times that this is something. Sometimes it takes somebody else. And so maybe, so I'm sure they told him probably 10,000 times, and it took her one time to tell him that. And he actually was like, oh, yeah.
And the crazy thing about that is, and I wasn't implying that his parents weren't saying that, because he had incredibly supportive parents. And even how, and I know that we'll get into this later, because the one thing that after this series had been out a while, the one thing people was on Dawn's head about how she handled certain situations. And I think that is a cultural aspect from, the different sides of the tracks. Some people could understand it, was fully supportive, and some people was like, hell no, and they identified more with Keisha's mom. That's fine. I think that I don't know, at least in our community, I know it's very hard to deal with and actually even sometimes support an affirmity that you can't see. If he has something wrong with his leg, then people would probably go out of their way to open the door for him and help him. And, even like, hey, I don't need any help, I'm good, or whatever. He's like, I see something's wrong with you. But it's different when they have something with them that you can't see. And sort of like how everyone kind of tried to get him to pump the brakes, but like when Keisha's father went at Justin, and they was like, hey, somebody get him.
No.
They didn't really stop him, because that's like, well, we don't really know what is the line, like what is offensive, what is too much, and what is just enough. So it's hard to not really deal with, but it's hard to really support those kind of things that people can't see if they don't write it off completely. You just being lazy, you just being this, so kudos to his parents. His parents were incredibly supportive, and MC's right. Sometimes the same thing his parents been saying to him and is pushing him. We just want the best out of you, son. We want excellence. We see it. We know that you have it in you. Even with your ADHD, you can push through it. And she says at one time, that's your superpower. He's like, really? Hold on, hold my cape.
I know. I was like, hey, come on now.
You said a lot, Rekkai, and one of the things I can't wait to look forward to is our conversation regarding some of the parents, because Keisha's father did catch a lot of heat in the comment section, and so did Dawn, Justin's mom, catch a lot of heat as well. But before we get into the deep end, I kind of want to get back onto the path of what the story is before we start, peeling back some of the smaller layers. And that is one of the things about the relationships with Justin and Keisha. So let me set the table. I think the three of us are in a very unique position in that we're Generation X. We were there during the analog years, transitioned into the digital stuff. So we've seen the internet take flight, and then we've kind of gone into where it is now, where social media is kind of like the dominant thing, and the swapping of information, photos, videos, and all of that is just the standard. Something interesting happened to Keisha, and that is she had a sex tape that got leaked.
Video.
Sex video was leaked. And I'm curious as to the both of you all's thoughts based on the fact that for maybe our kids, our son and your kids as well, know how to navigate those spaces of maybe inappropriate photos being taken, be it D pics or sex videos. And Keisha, as a part of that generation, wanted to handle her own way of dealing with her exposure due to the video. As us being parents, how do you feel about kids having to deal with that? Did Keisha deal with it the right way? And was that a good topic overall, just for us to kick that story off with? Because it seems really out there, but not. You know, like if this was like our grandparents, they probably would be completely clueless. Mm-hmm. You know, if it was the great generation, if it was like super young generation, they'd be like, oh, well, all you got to do is not worry about this and third. But we're in that middle. So how do you feel with that?
It's interesting because, like you said, I didn't grow up in that generation. Like we didn't have videos, nothing was recorded until I was
that's why I specified.
Dang near out of college. I mean, yes, I'm telling my age, but that's who I am. Yeah. I think that it's very important to have those conversations with our children because there is such a thing as social media, and how to navigate that. And it's so hard because it all stems to like the relationship that you have with your child.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if you're able to have conversations and discussions, if they feel like they're comfortable enough to come to you with these kind of things. And I don't really quite know why, that's a story for another day, but why Keisha wasn't comfortable enough to go to her mom when it first happened. I mean, I know that that's something she did. She wanted her to still look at her in a certain light and all the things. But if you're always having these conversations, especially in the time and age of social media, then she would have hopefully felt comfortable to come to her, or even say, hey, if something happens, I'm here, let's have conversation. How is social media for you right now? Even some parents share their logins and things. It just depends on who your child is, what kind of relationship you have with your child. So I mean, that's a whole conversation into itself, talking about the relationship, that you have with your child. Like if you're comfortable to having these conversations, does the dad talk to the boy? Does the mom talk to it's a whole conversation, right? Do I feel good that they started off that way?
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, because this generation, that's something that they deal with.
Okay.
Probably more so than we even realize. It probably happens on a daily basis to many people. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that everything that we watch, I'm glad when it has conversations that can be had. And then we can take those conversations back to our households, to our community, and whatever that looks like, so that when these things do happen, our children don't feel like they have to go through these things on their own, because that is very isolating. You know what I mean? And you don't ever want your child or some child in your village to feel like they're isolated and can't come to somebody, a trusted adult, to have these conversations and to try to figure out the best way to work through these things.
Rekkai, you're in a very unique stance that you have sons and daughter. So how does the sex tape being brought into a YA story, how did you feel about that? I mean, it came out, that was the first episode when that was exposed. So how did you feel?
I just feel like it is a part of the culture. These kids have so much more access to not only information, but pictures and video and everything than we had growing up. I've often said I was like, thank God there was no cell phones and all that when I was growing up. And again, I'm telling my age, but you know, because everywhere I was not supposed to be, that's where I was. All the evidence that could have been on me, oh Lord, no. Just the fact that my mom could go into a phone and, you know what I'm saying, look up and track where I was, where I wasn't supposed to be. Oh, hell no. So that's what these kids have to go through. And unfortunately, because of the media that they consume and just the sign of the times, that is a very common thing. And I know it's those clutch the pearl moments for us. And like, oh my God. But it's actually it's far more common than a lot of parents want to give credence to. As you go further, because the one thing that I loved about how they did this, and especially how when Keisha's mom got involved and started getting on Keisha's head about it, we need some retribution. We need something needs to happen. How that whole played out, and I don't want to jump into it because we might do that later. But when you start assuaging, you start, you know, handing out blame. This person's to blame. We need to get on that ass, and then you come to find out what you thought ain't how it really was. You're like, oh, you know, the best thing that I can say is that one of the reasons why I personally think that if parents don't watch this with their kids, because that might be awkward, to have your kids, teenagers, watch this. And even I say teenagers, hell, preteen, because they doing more stuff in middle school than you think. Have them watch this and then have a for real conversation. Because the one thing you don't want your kids to do is learn about the world from their peer group who don't know shit. You don't want them to learn from the internet. You want to have a real conversation. And what does that look like for your family and your kid? Because you can't, you know, all these wild hypotheticals on other kids and other stuff, but you have to have a real honest look, you know, and how do you feel about certain things? You know, some people are not even comfortable having that conversation with themselves, let alone with their kids. So,
Okay. There was a question here coming from Immaculate. Nismade said, question, if you're Christian's parents and you find out about the sex tape, do you support Shelly in getting the law involved? Answer honestly, please. That was another hot topic one regarding do you throw Christian under the bus?
let me
go
jump
for
out there. Let me jump on this grenade first, Captain America style. There's almost no good answer to this question. You have to think about it on both sides. What if, because we're asked as the parents, what if you're Christian's parents? But like for me, I also have the unique perspective of what if I'm Keisha's parent? How do I deal with these two things completely different ways, or is there a place in the middle where you deal with it? I think the way that this story led us, that we believe that it was 100% Christian's fault. But when you get into the story later, and I guess we're here now, Keisha sent it to him. That I'm not saying that Christian should have sent it to his friends trying to prove a point. Boy, adolescent teenage boys got to be some of the dumbest creatures on the face of the planet. Like, you know what I'm saying? The hormones rule the day and their brain don't even connect. I don't even think it wake up in the morning with them. Again, something I can say because I can look back and like, yeah, boy, I was dumb as hell. It's a young, dumb, and y'all know how that ends. Anyway, so I definitely think that if you're Christian parents and you find out all of this has been going on, he is left and gone to college now. He's a freshman in college. Hell, I think the University of Kansas probably already knows they know all about this. Because I'm sure if part of that vetting process as you going through and becoming an athlete, they'll be like, all right, we need to know your social medias. We have had somebody scrub your social medias. Are there any bombs? You got any kids out there? You know what I'm saying? You got herpes. We need to know everything because they're not looking out for Christian. They're looking out for the university. So they probably already knew. I think it's a detriment that Christian did not let his parents know. I think it's a detriment that Keisha didn't let her parents know. And as Christian's parents, they should have a sit down with Keisha and her parents. I know she just wants to go away. What he did is not necessarily, because I don't know to what extent. It's not necessarily criminal. Immoral, yes. Of incredibly bad judgment, yes. However, the one thing you don't want to do is blame it on Keisha because she sent it to him. That was the first mistake in a long line of mistakes.
Right.
I don't think that Christian should escape all culpability and responsibility for this action. He got to go on and live his life and do all these things. Something has to happen. What that is, I don't know. And again, speaking as thinking about if my son did some dumb shit like this, I honestly don't know how I would have to deal with him and then deal with the young lady and her parents, how is involved with that. So, I mean, that's the best I can answer the question as of right now.
Well, let's go with you, and then I'll give my 2 cents.
If I'm Christian's parents and I find out about the sex tape, do I support Shelly getting the law involved? Well, of course I'm not going to support Shelly's mom getting the law involved. That's my kid. I'd rather us have a conversation about it because as a kid, it's not a question of if you're going to make mistakes. The question is how bad are those mistakes going to be? And do those mistakes warrant destroying parts of your life, potentially destroying parts of your life or making parts of your life extremely difficult? It's hard enough just to be a Black woman in America and a Black man in America. That's already difficult enough. And if we're having a community conversation, which was a big thing that Dawn was saying, you know, it used to be a time when the community would kind of come together and correct these wrongs. That I think I would want, if I'm Christian's parents, I would want to have that conversation because there's no need to. I mean, if it's possible for us to have an understanding that these mistakes were made and that growth can come from it and a teachable moment can come from it, and then that both of our children can both move forward without any criminal activity, I would push for that if I'm Christian's family, if I'm Christian's parents. But on the flip side, you know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like if I had a daughter that I wouldn't want, you know, some kind of retribution. You know, it's a double-sided coin, and I feel that both sides have a point to it. I'm going to try and save my kid the best way, but no matter if I'm Christian's parents or if I'm Keisha's parents. But ideally, I would want us to be able to come together and to talk this out before we got the law involved.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm not going to lie. And it says answer honestly, please, which of course I always will. For me, once you get the law involved, that creates a whole other level of things, right?
Yes, it's a whole dynamic.
That's a whole, and so for a young Black male to be targeted for, you know, by the law or, you know, identified as whatever they would like to identify him in this situation, that's a whole other level of involvement, right? So for me, like you, I feel like because both adolescents are saying, hey, I am partly to blame for this, right? There's no one person that did more than the other in terms of, you know, sending the tape, sending the video, who they send it to, whatever one, you know, they both recorded it, they both agreed to record it, all the things, right? So I feel like if we could have a conversation as parents with our adolescents to talk about what we can do to move forward, you know, even to have some sort of conversation about what did we learn from this, so that we don't do these type of things again, have these same mistakes. And even if we do, you know, at least we're able to show like that we can have a conversation without involving, you know, the law and having it go to a whole other level of just all the things.
Yeah, because once the police are involved, that's a whole different conversation.
And then you have no control at that point. You have no control over the situation.
Then the destiny of these children, and keep in mind they are children. And then the destiny of these children is left up to
somebody else's hands.
Yeah, of course. Somebody else's hands. Rekkai, I see you chomping a bit. What's going on?
Well, because I mean, as I was saying what I was saying, I'm thinking it over, and I want to make sure that I don't, stick my foot in my mouth. The crazy thing is, when Keisha's mom was going off on Keisha, and she's like, did he pressure you? Did he make you do this? Did he take advantage of you? She was going all the way in because, again, when Keisha first told her, she didn't have all the information. Remember, she couldn't even focus. She said, I got to go to work. I can't even hear this shit. And she bounced. And then when she came back to have a sit down talk with her, she still was like, I done already contacted the lawyer, and this, she was still only working at a smidge of the information that she needed to move forward. Keisha had to shut her down. It was more than just about Keisha. Like, I just want this to go away. Keisha had to be like, no, I took the video. I wanted to do this. I took the video on my phone and I sent it to him. And the thing is, once you get the authorities involved, it's completely out of your hands. And you're so busy trying to punish Christian, you don't realize that Keisha is also going to be punished too. What she did is also a crime. The fact that he sent it to somebody else is just as much of a crime as her sending it to him. They're both Christian's a senior, Keisha's a junior. He might have been 18 at the time, maybe not. I'm assuming that she was 16, 17. He may have been 17. Either way, both of them are now guilty. And the eyes of the law don't care about, and be like, oh, well, she's the victim. You can't punish her. Keisha said it perfectly herself, that unfortunately she was the one demonized for it. Because, you could see Christian on the video, but no one said anything to him. He didn't suffer the brunt of any of that. Even when the mother, thinking that she was doing, a good thing when they were in Martha's Vineyard, and she told Dawn, and hopefully, she's bounced back and, good to see her, come through it. No one said anything about Christian. And that shit is wrong as hell. However, it is a societal thing that we're not going to fix in one episode of one great series, and but it's the conversation needs to be had. Why didn't Justin suffer the brunt of any of that? The sad part is she ran track. She was a track star. He is what, in the top 10 of best basketball players in the state of California. And unfortunately, as an athlete, listen, a school will close ranks and they will protect athletes because athletics bring money into the school, and they will let a lot of their star players get away with a whole lot of bullshit that they should not, criminal or not. They don't go to class, they failed on classes. Hey, doesn't matter. You ready to dunk? You ready to beat our rivals across town this Friday? They let a whole lot of that stuff fly, and they shouldn't. And that needs to be a different conversation, because how can we protect our kids, not just the ones that come home to me? How can we protect our kids when we're part of a system that allows this type of shit to happen? So
Felicia Cooper in the chat said the sad thing is that a girl was being demonized as a slut for doing a sexual activity only with a boyfriend. She was made to be loose and heavily sexual. That needs to be a discussion too. There is something to that, because the stigma is very different for a woman than it is for a man. And even though, it sounds great for us to be like, we should come together as a community, make sure our kids aren't, thrown in jail or some kind of juvenile detention center or whatever, if it goes to the law. But at the end of the day, Keisha is going to have to carry that burden a lot more and in a different way than Christian. I was just curious, Mikel-Claire, how did you feel about that? Like the balance, the scales still aren't balanced, conversation or not.
Well, the thing to me is it's always been that way. Not saying that it's right, obviously, because I don't think it is, but it's been that way since I was a young girl, and I feel like that isn't going to change anytime soon. I mean, when it comes to that particular topic, like women are just viewed differently if we have, you know, if we act on like certain instincts or needs or you know, relationships or any of those things, like we just are viewed differently. We have different labels put on us, and it's been that way since the beginning of time, to be honest with you. How do we change that? I don't know, because there are people in the community and out of the community that just continue that conversation and that stigma, and I don't know what it's going to take in order for that to go away.
Is there, Rekkai, thank you for that. Thank you for this question, Felicia Cooper. Rekkai, is there a way to balance the scales with that?
The only way to balance the scales is as a community, we close ranks. We have these type of conversations, and push this information out there. But you have to have other people buy in and be like, you know what, we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. It's a much bigger conversation. It's a much bigger problem than us. I mean, you can go to the type of TV our kids watch. They think it's okay to watch Love and Hip Hop and Basketball Wives, and that type of activity is normal. The music that they listen, I'm grown and I like Glorilla and Lotto, and but when you have Sexy Red show up to high schools and put on performances and not censor it, why someone thinks it's okay for Sexy Red to show up to a middle school or a high school and perform for children is so mind-boggling. But that happened. That actually happened. When she was talking about certain things was pink and other things was brown, it's like, why? Why? This is a much larger conversation to what we need to happen as a community, and sometimes we are perpetuating parts of it. I don't know. Does that mean I should stop listening to Glorilla and Lotto? I don't listen to Sexy Red. That is, I lose IQ points when that come on. But definitely means you shouldn't listen to it around your children. What kind of conversation should you be having at home? What kind of conversation should we be having as a culture and community? And then on top of that, I'm just thinking about when I was coming up. If my mama tried to tell me that I shouldn't listen to, Two Live Crew or Nelly Tip Drill or whatever, you don't understand. You don't get it. That's that heat, like, oh, no, I ain't trying to have that conversation with my mama. Like, whatever you listen to back in your days, the dramatics or whatever, some freaky the Earth, Wind and Fire cameo was saying, you stay with that, go with Jesus. I just listen. So I don't know how we actually make this a real thing. The best thing you can do really to protect yourself, your household, is to have these kind of real conversations with your kids, and then hope that when they go out into the world that they took in what you said and they exhibit that to the world. So
great.
Well, I was just gonna say really quickly, I think that it's interesting though that we're talking about like having the conversation or how we are as parents and having these conversations with our kids. If I think about like generations older than me, I mean, a lot of the conversations we did have about young ladies who tended to be a little more out there or act on their sexual desires, right? Like, what type of conversation did your grandparents have with you about these young ladies? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't ever have somebody who was like, let's have a conversation about this. Like, this is an actual natural desire to have, you know what I mean? And how, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have those conversations growing up. So I'm curious to know how we stop that cycle from happening, where we or generationally, how we just continue that thought process, or that that's what that is. Because I don't believe that's what that is, but was I taught that probably growing up? Probably a little bit. Let's be honest. Let's say what it is. Like, my, older generations weren't about, wearing short skirts or, you know what I mean? Not saying that equates to that, because it doesn't.
Fast.
Yeah, that doesn't equate to that. But I mean, if you had on and some
that's
families,
the old heads used to say, though.
Families, if you had on a short skirt or you had on red lipstick or red nail polish, that meant something.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, I don't know how to stop that conversation or that perspective from happening in our community.
Well, that's why when I posed the question earlier before, I was like, we're in a very unique position, being Generation X, is that we had those conversations with boomers in that sense, where there was a cultural response, there was a responsibility that people had to the community from a woman's standpoint, a man's standpoint, or be it through the church or whatever it is. But there was like roles and things had to be done in such a way that didn't violate like the unstated rules of the neighborhood and of the community.
Yeah.
And also, even though we were taught from that generation, we also have kids that are in the generation where, having a sex video is a part of the conversation. Those are two totally different polar opposite sides of the generational conversation.
We have to navigate that.
Right. Yeah. So first off, let me give a shout out to Lisa real quick. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, Lisa, for contributing to this super chat. Lisa said, I love my internet uncles, but I hope Miss Mikel-Claire blesses us with her presence for season 2. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong. I had
internet unk. I'll take it.
I had a ball watching this with Rekkai, and I know there was a couple of times where we both had to kind of like rein ourselves in, because we might have started getting a little too, I don't know, maybe a little too managed for some of the stuff and only seeing things from one side. And even though we was having a good time and asking interesting questions and giving some interesting perspective, having that feminine touch could have been greatly used to kind of balance out some of this. So thank you for being here, and thank you, Lisa, for the generous super chat for that. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that, and I'm hopeful to be able to do that. But I don't want to
rain on, but I'm sorry that I cut you off, MC, because it came out a while ago, but we were in the flow of the conversations. So I just want to make sure that we mention.
Oh my goodness! Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Frank.
Frank is in the building.
Yes, thank you, Frank. Frank was with us the entire time during our run of Forever, and had some interesting questions and some points that he was bringing up. Frank comes from another interesting perspective. He's white and Canadian, and was watching a story about YA black kids trying to figure it out. So his curiosity regarding some of the things and some of the questions, and him listening to us give perspective, was just a lot of fun, because it gave us an opportunity to kind of like, show off the culture, explain some stuff.
Have different perspectives, which I love.
So thank you for that. I do appreciate that. Rekkai, what were you about to say?
No. MC was. I cut her off. So MC.
No, cut me off.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I was. Yes, thank you, Rekkai. No, I was just saying. Okay, yes, I absolutely would love to be a part of next season. Here's the interesting thing, though. The interesting thing is, I don't feel like you guys would be able to have the conversation that you had in the way that you had it if I was there. And I know that in the comments, a lot of people were very appreciative of you as two Black male fathers and the perspective that you gave in the conversation that you had. And I wouldn't want to interject anything that didn't allow that free flow of conversation.
Well, there is a difference between the talk in the barbershop when it's nothing but the dudes in there, and then when a woman walks into the barbershop, the conversation does change a little bit. There is some truth to that.
I go to the barbershop, they be quick to close mouths, so I'd be like,
For those of you all in the audience, by all means, throw some questions at us, because we're having a really good time. I'm going to throw just one more little quick thing out, and we'll wait and see what other questions the community has to say to us. And that is parenting styles. We had two totally different parenting styles in the show, between Justin's parents and Keisha's mom. I was just curious what stood out, be it styles, who got it right, who got it wrong, what did we miss, This is a little bit more of a hot topic, hot button conversation that was going on in the comment section, especially, let me not just say Keisha's mom, because both of her parents was there. I think that's an important thing as well, because Keisha's dad had a very dynamic conversation as well. I think Keisha's dad and Don were the two big hot buttons. Why is that? Why do you think people had something to say about those two things, about those two parents and their style?
Because people are always quick to talk about moms and the role that we play.
So was Don overbearing?
No, Don is just like me. I related. I'm telling you right now, I am Don and Don is me. Like, we relate.
I don't disagree.
I know that, and I can acknowledge that. I can completely acknowledge that. Yeah. So the portrayal of Don, I felt, was very accurate.
Okay.
I related to it in all kinds of ways, shapes, and forms.
Why?
Why did I relate to it?
Yes.
Because as a mother of a Black male adolescent in this day and time, there is a certain level of protection that I have over him. And I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. Okay. Do I think that there needs to be a balance in some other type of influence that a child has, that a male adolescent has? Absolutely. Okay. That's why hopefully we have a community or a village that also has some sort of, say, an impact on, how our children are raised. But I completely related to Don. Okay. In every way, shape, and form.
Rekkai, which one of these parents you want to take a shot at? You want to take a quick jab at?
I'm taking no jabs.
At Don, because they were the hot topic conversation.
I know what you're saying.
You want to take a little shot at Don, or you want to take a shot at Keisha's father? What is his name? I want to keep calling him Keisha's father. I know he's got Quincy. That's his name, Quincy. Right, wrong, or otherwise.
Here's the interesting thing. I relate to all four parents in different ways for different reasons. Okay. Not in the same way, not being an absent parent, because my father was an absent parent. Even while he was married to my mother, he was not there. His work was life. So I understand Keisha's father. I understand the dynamic where her mama was holding it down. After my parents got divorced, we as a family went from being Justin, because my dad was an officer in the military. We were good. When they got divorced, we went from being Justin. I went from being Justin to being the male Keisha. We was broke as hell. Like, Jesus Christ. I get it. I've seen both sides of that. But my mom was more like Dawn, actually. I could go to my mom and talk to my mom. And the one thing about my mom, she tried to shield me away from the adult stuff that she was dealing with. I saw a lot. I understood a lot. I was a little bit more mature than I guess most of my peers or whatever. And the one thing is, I could go to my mom and ask her anything, and she didn't sugarcoat it. She told me exactly what it was, and we had a good rapport. Then the thing is, I had a different trauma that onset by the time I got to high school. And I did shut down. I didn't talk to my mom anymore. And I became Keisha in a way. Wasn't a sex tape. So just throwing it out there.
That you know about.
We didn't have no camcorders back then.
I was about to say, it was a little different. Big, gigantic camcorder on your shoulder.
What are those lights and that big handheld camera? What is that for?
Hold on, I gotta flip the tape.
Press rewind on this piece.
It was different.
Shit. I thought we were just recording BET Uncut. No. Anyway. I envy Justin's dad and Dawn. And when I had my kids, that's the trajectory I thought that I was on until I wasn't. And I ended up becoming Keisha's mama. So it happens. you know, life is what you make it, and you got to make the best of the situation you're dealt with. Quincy, I had a hard time with him because a lot of times I felt that he had some great conversation with Keisha, but I felt like he had a hard time seeing past himself and his own trauma that dealt with his father that was unresolved. And I guess I can say these things now because over the last 6 years, I've been in therapy. So therapy works wonders. Because I didn't realize how many unresolved issues I had with my father that showed up at the worst time in the worst ways possible that played, you know, their own small part in me being a divorced man now. So, you know, it's just one of those things. What I loved about this series is that it gave a honest depiction of all four parents from all four levels. And even though it's easy to look at Keisha's parents as they were separated, and, you know, even Quincy said, you know, I was the absent deadbeat dad. You know, who am I to give you advice? And she said, you weren't a deadbeat. And he said, but I was absent. And I think that was very important to the show because it didn't play into the stereotype of the Black father. Because it's hard for people to recognize Justin's father as something real in a lot of households. Because it's like, I don't know nothing about that. You know, man owns his own restaurant, about to have 5 restaurants. Like they live in a life. I personally know what that's like because I went from living a life to not living a life. So I really loved how they did this, and I loved Dawn because at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want to say about Dawn. She was protective over her son, and she wanted nothing but the best for him. You know what I'm saying? And even when she didn't have, I think my only problem with Dawn, my only problem with her was at the end of the series when he said he didn't want to go to school. He wanted to, you know, take a gap year, which that's a whole new thing. It didn't really exist, or, you know, maybe it existed for Caucasian people, but when I was coming up, that wasn't a thing. So to take a gap year, to figure stuff out, to, you know, get ready to apply to go to different schools, and she shut down and couldn't talk to him and walked off, and that was the last time we saw her in that season. I hate that she didn't get a redemption, kind of like Keisha's mom. When Keisha told her about the sex thing, she left, went back to work, but then came back and had a real conversation. Her and Don had a real conversation, and you saw Keisha's mom come back around and be there for Keisha, and their relationship improved so much. I hated that we didn't get to see that from Dawn. I'm assuming that happened, but we didn't see that, and I hate that for her.
It's just a quick blurb.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody Black talk about a gap year until I want to say it was one of Obama's daughters. I forgot which one. Sasha, Malia.
Oh no.
Yeah, one of them took. Yeah, one of them took a gap year. Okay. I do remember that.
Okay.
And I do remember that being like a bit of a conversation about that, and people were like, "What's a gap year?"
Yeah.
Because it's just not.
It didn't exist for me.
It's not necessarily,
not
you know.
In my household.
Yeah. That's not typically a conversation you hear. So Black folks do take it, you know. It's just you just don't hear about it a lot. What were you about to say?
One thing that I think is really fascinating when we ask about, like, how did I feel about the different parents, right? When I became a parent, I learned very quickly, obviously, and we've heard this so many times, there's no instruction manual. Oh, no. There's no guidelines, there's no rules, there's no this is how it's done. So for me to see like that nobody does it the same is absolutely accurate. And I was very glad that we didn't have the same parents or the same household and the 2 parent house. You know what I mean? Like, because it's not reality and it's not realistic. And everybody does the best they can with the experience, the information, and the situations that they're in and that they have, right? And that's the best. We do the best that we can with what we have. And so I appreciated that in this series that, you know, Eric wasn't like Quincy. Dawn wasn't like, why can I not remember Keisha's mama name? I need to know her. Shelly. Yeah, excuse me. Shelly, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, everybody is different. Everybody has a different upbringing that they bring into their parenting styles, you know? So, and I just appreciated that. And so I don't fault one parent or another for how they raise their children in this regard. Let's be specific and clear, because obviously not everybody is a good parent, but what I mean. In this regard, I consider everybody's best effort to be what it was, their best effort.
Yeah, I think like there was a little bit of controversy with either Don, or there was definitely some controversy with Quincy, or some controversy with Shelly. But Eric made out like a fat rat.
Everybody loved Eric.
Everybody
he was
Eric.
like,
I love Eric. I thought Eric I thought he had some really cool, candid conversations with his son. I liked how he was able to make quick decisions that helped Justin realize what it takes to become a man. That moment when he had to leave because Keisha was having a bit of a breakdown because of the stress, and he was trying to explain to his parents, he was like, "Oh, she needs me right now." And when Eric was like, "You need to go out and see her, but before you leave, what did I tell you about the conversation about how to deal with police? Let me get your contact information so that I know that you made it there. Call me when you get back." Like it was a cool little breakdown, and it was also an interesting not confrontation, but what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of when Eric and Don kind of bumped heads a little bit, right? It wasn't like a breakdown fight and screaming and yelling or anything like that, but Eric definitely stepped in real quick and was like, "This thing needs to happen. This is a teachable moment, and right now we have to trust. We have to trust in the things that we've taught Justin that can allow him to address this situation confidently, like a man, be there so that he can, help somebody in need." So I thought that was kind of. I thought that the chat and the community as a whole would have had some hot conversation for Eric doing that, because there was a direct, not defiance, but counter. Well, I guess it was defiance. It was defiance of what Dawn was kind of saying, because she didn't want him to leave at all.
Yeah.
Right. But it wasn't like that as far as from what I read in the comment section, none of that happened. And then once again, Eric was kind of like, that was the right decision, which I do believe was the right decision that Eric had made.
Well, let me tell you why. Like, even though I feel some kind of way about it, because I am Dawn and Dawn is me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only speak from my perspective, right? And that's what I'm doing. So for me, as we know, there like a woman has never been a man before.
That's correct.
So when we're raising, well, you
know
what
I'm
saying.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
okay, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole topic.
You're right. We're not
right
even
here.
going there.
We're right here, right now.
Right.
So, so for me, I don't know how to raise a young Black man.
Okay.
I don't, because I've never been a young Black man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So there may be situations like this that you would know this is a teachable moment. This is going to teach him how to be a better man. This is going to teach him this and that and this. So even though my perspective may be different, I may disagree, and I may think that something, as a protective mother that I am, that I would have had a different decision be made. I have learned to kind of look at that perspective and take a step back at times, not back, but take a side step at times in order for that to happen, because I don't know how to be a Black man in America, because I'm not a Black man in America.
Right.
So I feel like I do give kudos to Eric in that moment, because he was able, and to Dawn, because they were able to be like, okay, he knows what's best for our child in this situation. Well, you know what I mean? And so that takes precedent over how I might feel about, protecting my baby.
I'm actually happy that you said that about Dawn, because I thought that was a really big moment for her to even though she didn't necessarily agree in the moment, she didn't agree with what Eric was saying. She realized when it was time to take her foot off the gas and be like, okay, all right, you got this. I'm sure she probably had words with him after Justin left, I'm sure they probably had a conversation. But it was a critical juncture where it was like, we all need to be on the same page very quickly, and she took her foot off the gas and allowed Eric to lead.
Well, because I feel like it seems like in their relationship, they're aware of when those moments come about, right? They
can read each other.
They
well
have two
enough.
Children, and you don't want to have that conversation in front of your child. You know what I mean? So if I'm gonna be honest with you, like if there's a moment where you're stern with me, I know that it's for a reason, and it's not for just because you're trying to be dominant and rude.
No.
You know what I mean? So I know that, hey, if he's being stern with me in this moment, then this is what needs to happen for our child to grow and learn and So all the things.
Yeah.
This guy over here laughing at us like
go ahead, Rekkai. Go ahead and say what's on your mind. Yeah, we over here like Donahue right now.
Listen, I'm
Like,
sorry because my head has been just spinning since this topic came up, and I think it is so interesting. But when MC just said that right there, listen, if you stir with me for a reason, you know what I'm saying, and I'm sorry. You know what? I'm not even gonna say what I was about to say because.
Oh, Rekkai.
Boo
This man.
Just because I know y'all and I love y'all so much. You like, MC be like, you stir with me for a reason, and I let it go, you know. But it was kind of hot though. Get your ass out. Like, let's work this out. You're like, yes, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So let me go make up for my transgression. Here's one thing that I think was really, really interesting about this argument, because you're right. Eric did make out like a fat rat, and that particular time. So they had 2 times where they disagreed about things in the show. One, the first time when he stole the little driver's ed car and went over to Keisha's school. Like I think Don actually even cussed at Eric because they did not agree on that there. And if y'all remember, Eric retreated. He backed up a little bit. And when Justin even came to him and was like, hey, Dad, come on, you got to tell her, you got to do this. Like he went to Don, like, he went to his dad, like Don was like, she was here. And I think in a relationship, it's easy to see that Eric and Don kind of balance each other out. You know what I'm saying? They're not the same. And even though it's easy to look at, they have 2 different parenting styles. Maybe they do, but they come together and form Voltron or whatever. They are a unified front, and most times. And even Eric had to say, wait a minute, what happened now? A black girl, listen, if there's anything your mama want for you, listen, boy, next time, start with that shit. You know what I'm saying? He said something to him that is so real, and not just the black community, any community. Boy, talk, communicate, simple shit. Save that, and sometimes I think that gets missed, the whole communication piece of it. Listen, boy, next time you out here messing up, you got us think of one thing: communicate. Tell us what's going on so that we can make a informed decision together. So Eric, the first thing he did is, boy, take your ass in there and talk to your mama right now. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you came to me. I see your point. Go talk to your mama. Now, the second time it happened, they had a different dynamic. And mama, you know what I'm saying, immediately put the clamps on him. You ain't going nowhere. She'll work it out. You know what I'm saying? That's their problem. And he's like, boy, go see to your woman. Go do this. And she looked at him like, what? And he's like, listen, let's recount so your mom feels a little bit better. Let's go over the rules. When you go out the house at night, you're going to be in a nice car. You're going, how you deal with the police. You're going to make her feel a little bit better. Not all the way. But then he's like, listen, we expect him to do man shit. This is man shit right here. Go do it. And I love that about him. I think the biggest thing that gets missed, and I saw a little bit in my socials, but I did not engage. I did not engage, and this is going to be one of them things.
Hold on, let me set up.
This is going to be one of them things. I'm going to pose it as a question. Was Eric allowed to do that, to be that, because of his financials? If Dawn is making more money, if making the same amount of money in our community, do you still consider Eric the head of the household? Like, we in the black community, we have a funny situation when it comes to money and who takes the lead. I personally believe that if he's the head of the household, and he's handling business, whether he worked, as a fireman, policeman, he's the manager or whatever, and even if their money thing is not equal, if he's handling business, in the household, then he's the head of the household. And that doesn't mean he's 2 steps in front of her. It doesn't mean that. It just means that, you know what I'm saying, you have to give some sort of deference. The same way that he gave her the deference the first time they got into it. Mama said what she said. Now you got to go fix it with mama. You know, and that's not for me to fix. Don't come in here and telling me, Dad, I need you to fix this. No. Son, you need to go talk to your mother and straighten this out. And the second time, he said, son, you go do what you need to do, and I'll go handle this with your mother. Because at some point, to MC's point, you know, it's hard to teach a young man how to be a man without a man in the picture. And I am saying that from my own personal experience as well. There were things as I got to the teenage years, and my parents are now divorced, and I had zero to little relationship at all with my father, even though I don't know if that would have made any damn difference anyway. There were certain things that my mom could not teach me about. How she could give me the thing about how to be out here in the streets, how to treat women, how to, you know, look out for the police, all of that. But she couldn't tell me about the things that I was going to deal with as a man. And unfortunately, I had to, you know, kind of adopt other male, you know, father figures. And sometimes it's not what you want if the man is in the house. So she let Eric, because they are a team, she let Eric parent and be a father to his son in that moment, because that's what he needed. She had no idea how to tell him how to deal with his girlfriend and all that. I think that was the right choice. You know, it's hard. It's hard to say it, but I think Eric getting over in this show, partly because what you want as a parent, you saw the sort of success that Eric had, even though it was made very apparent later in the show that all of his success is not just him. He's doing the work, but a lot of that, because they're partners, they're a team, her connections, her, you know what I'm saying? She knew people, she helped put whatever it is that, you know, I don't even think that they said what Dawn did in the show. I knew that she did something. She was a professional, but what they have together. It wasn't just on his back alone. And I think he made out so well, because many of us don't have that type of example. And to have that type of example for Dawn as well, I think those are the type of parents you want to have, or those are the type of parents you want to be. So that's my 2 cents.
I was gonna let you.
He asked the question, they answered my question.
Oh,
So I was gonna say, the smart thing that they did in the show was the moment when Dawn said, your father didn't get this on his own. It was my connections that got him there. So their success is tied together. So the power, I think that implied to me, as far as the show is concerned, that they shared power within the household. That's how it was implied to me. Now, how would you?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's interesting because I don't think that I've equated income in the household to power in the household.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think, like, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about it, right? Because I'm thinking about like my childhood and all the things, right?
Okay.
So for me, when it comes to raising children, I don't consider it necessarily power as more what's best for the child.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So that's how I would answer that question.
Well, the only thing that I can think of that could, this is a bit of a reach, that could back that a little bit, is the relationship that Shelly has with Quincy, and that Quincy wasn't mature enough to know what it is that he wanted out of his life. And because of that, it probably did put some financial strain as he was off chasing these dreams.
Yeah.
as a result of him chasing his dreams, the responsibility that he has as strong of a say regarding what goes on in Keisha's life is probably not going to be as strong as what Mama says, because he's not there.
Yeah, he's not there.
Yeah, he's not there because he's off, trying to fulfill this dream.
Yeah.
So, and he's off fulfilling this dream, which can probably directly affect their income, because apparently, Shelly is struggling. She's working 3 or 4 jobs just to pay for uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's coming back and he's trying to establish some type of dominance, I'm sure that there's probably going to be some pushback. That's what I would assume.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, if you're absent.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you're absent, then you're not. No. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, given the information that's given to us in the show, if there is going to be like a power difference between who's raising these kids, I think it would be more evident in
incest.
Shelly and Quincy.
Okay. I agree with that.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with that.
But it's a little bit more. It's not as certain when it comes to Don and Eric.
I agree with that.
Like I was saying, the only thing I picked up on that in my socials, but I shied away from it. I didn't engage because I didn't know what I wanted to say. But there were what I saw in socials was that people said, well, of course, Eric can do X, Y, and Z because he makes enough money. He's a good man and he is holding his family down. That completely discounts what Dawn comes to the situation. They are a team, and whatever struggles that they've had, they did it together and they made a way. I think what was also missed in that too was, even though, to your point about Quincy coming in and trying to assert some parental thing or trying to establish his relationship with his daughter, it was different. And I appreciate how the show showed that even though Quincy wasn't around, Quincy's father had took up a lot of the slack for being a male in Keisha's life. And Keisha's cousins, Tiffany and Brittany, they played a lot where they had 2 different sorts of villages around them helping to raise them. And even though they were raised in 2 different ways, beautifully, at the end, they still were able to make it to the finish line because of the support, the village that they had around them to help raise them. It may have been different, but it worked. And I love, right around the end there too, that those villages were able to actually kind of join together for a little while to help support each other. One of the greatest things that gets overlooked in this show is kudos to Dawn when Dawn called Shelly to tell her about what was going on with Keisha. And she said, listen, I want you to tell me if I overstepped. I am sorry, but I want to call and check on you because I pray that as a mother, if you knew this about my son or if somebody knew this, that they would call me and tell me what was going on. And that, for all whatever criticism people had about Dawn, that right there as a parent, and I can't speak to what it means as a woman, but listen, if someone called me and told me something like that about my son or about my daughter, I would be like, thank you so much. Because sometimes we go out of our way to avoid the uncomfortable conversation when it absolutely needed to be had. And it needed to be had earlier than when Dawn was the only one with enough gumption to call her. And she had to force Justin, like, listen, you tell her if she don't talk to her mama, give her the opportunity first. Her mother absolutely needs to be in the loop. She needs to know. If she don't tell her, I will. And I think that was the right thing. And Dawn deserves all the credit for it in the world. And even she came to Shelly like a woman. Listen, if I did too much, my bad. I just thought that you should know. And that right there is the example of the village that I think is really missing from our communities. A lot of people are like, ain't my business, you know what I'm saying? I'm not getting into it. I'm not getting into the middle. They mess. And, she probably already know, listen, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. In case you didn't know, this is what's going on.
And I think that the thing that I appreciate and respect about that as well is that she went to her son first. And she was like, look, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you and her the opportunity to have this conversation and for her to have the conversation with her mom. But she didn't try to like go behind his back or her back and do all the things, you know what I mean? And so she had the respect for her son to be like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's no, you know, no miscommunication. No, everybody knows we're all on the same page. We have, you know what I mean? And I really appreciated that about that situation as well.
Okay.
Right. Now, am I wrong in assuming, and this could just be me, when Dawn first got that information about Keisha, you saw the look on her face, like her whole face, you know, she's like, oh, you know, okay. You know, Justin's back with Keisha. I'm not really liking it because I don't like how she did my son, broke his heart the first time, went to the prom with Christian. But okay, you know what I'm saying? I can't stop when she got the information, the look on her face completely changed, and then the episode went off. And the next episode, when she went to Justin about it, I don't think she had any good intention when she went to Justin about it. When she went to like, do you know? Like, you know, her next thing was like, yeah, you need to stop seeing this little girl. Did you know she got this out there? And it didn't change until he said, yes, he already knew. That blew her away. She's like, oh, shit, this is not getting ready to go the way I thought it was going to go. Okay, hold on.
What
I got to reformulate. Yeah,
he caught her off balance.
Yeah.
Well, because
she had to come back. She had to.
He said, well, this is how you raised me. You know, you raised me in order to see the bigger picture. And
she
then
had to
from
come back
then,
from later and like, thank you for throwing the water in my face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like we said, when we first hear and see these things, as a mama bear, our first instinct is to protect at all costs, no matter what that looks like to us, you know what I mean? And then when you take a step back and you think about, you know, humanity, and this is, you know, your child, and, you know, what do you want to teach them from this? Or like, you know, what perspective can you take other than as their parent? Sometimes, like, as, you know, as a person going through certain things, you want to be able to understand different perspectives or have conversations to know where they're coming from. So it can be very difficult initially. And that's in any relationship, you know what I mean? Like just having that initial shock of something, you're like, oh Lord, this is, you know, this is how it's affecting me, not this is how it's affecting somebody else or affecting my child, you know what I mean? So, and then once you take a step back and kind of, hopefully can kind of look at it from that perspective, then sometimes your opinion can change a little bit.
All right. Let me give a shout out to A Plum real quick. Hey, thank you, A Plum. Thank you for your for your generous contribution. A Plum said, great analysis and perspective as always. Thank you so much for that. Just want to give everybody a heads up. If there is a coach, because we're getting a little bit closer to the hour and a half mark. I think we can maybe do like 15 more minutes. About 15 more minutes. We're gonna do about 15 more minutes, and I want to make sure everybody gets their question answered. So by all means, drop them in the chat. We'll try and get them in order if there is something that you wanted us to talk about in regarding the show forever. I did have one question while everybody's generating their ideas. I did have a question for you all, and then we haven't really shown a whole lot of love to Justin and Keisha. We've been kind of really focused on what's been going on with the parents. Yeah. I mean, and rightfully so, because that's because we're parents, and that's what we're talking about. I was just curious what you all's thoughts were regarding their relationship. This is a coming of age story on both sides. Was there anything that was any oversteps? What was cool? What made you kind of a little bit reminiscent about, you know, when you were that age going through it as well? What were some of the misses? Just anything. But let's keep it on Justin and Keisha for the next little bit of this conversation until the questions get in. Let me start with you, Rekkai, real quick.
Oh, I don't know about misses, because the one thing, it's hard because I know that they took this from a book that's already been out there. It's been out. The book is 50 years old, if you believe that. The one thing that I appreciated in this series was how they were able to extrapolate the theme and a lot of the major points from the book and craft it for today and with a different culture. Because, you know, the same thing is love, adolescence is adolescence. All this stuff is timeless. It doesn't need a race or whatever of people for it to work. I I found Justin for be a 16, 17-year-old kid to be extremely mature for his age, and did some things that I, for different reasons, I couldn't even see myself doing. Like, I understand, like, when he cut Keisha loose after he said it was just too painful, he could, you know what I'm saying? I get it. You going to the prom with Christian, that's to appease your mom and to hold up, her perspective and all that. I get it. And sometimes those lies that we tell to our parents, or even more to ourselves, but the maturity with which he did that, shit, I wish I had that kind of maturity. Because I was a knucklehead. I just done some dumb shit or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just, you can't be mad. Shit, you the one went to prom with another dude, so it is what it is. He did that, and he loved that girl. God damn. But the funny thing about that is he showed all that maturity, and it seemed like once he didn't have her in his life, which maybe is a testament again to the writing, he regressed to when they got back together. Like that conversation that Quincy had with Keisha about him holding on to her because he didn't know he was lost himself. Like he regressed towards the end of the season. And I was like, damn, dude, you working backwards. Like Justin was out there on some old bullshit. And that's the thing about that incident with Keisha and Christian. Once you get into a situation like that, especially they broke up, she goes to prom with Christian, you can start to make assumptions about what happened, what didn't happen. Your mind runs away with you. That is a trauma that boy had added to his life and wasn't ready to deal with or whatever. And then he got zero help for it. That when he got into it with Jaden and, blew up on Jaden, cussed him out, and his mama said, no, not going in the house. You can't go to school today. Somebody going to trigger you and you're going to go clean the hell off. And it's going to be hard for me to explain you out of it. We passed your neurodivergence. You about to take somebody's head off because you're mad about this issue with this little girl. And of course, his parents didn't have all the information. That boy should have, again, now, at this late age of my life, I understand the value of therapy. And I cannot espouse it enough. When I got a divorce, I tried to put my kids in therapy because I saw the value of it. My kids said, no, we're not engaging. We good. And it's hard to argue with them because they honestly think that they're good. And a lot of times small things pop up that could probably be worked out in therapy because of the divide, the issues between me and her mother to this day. And all I can do is talk to them and think not only as their father, I'm friendly with my kids. I wouldn't say I'm their friend. I do make it a safe space where they can come to me and tell me things. But at the end of the day, my kids also understand, listen, I ain't your friend. I'm your father. My job is far different than what your friends' jobs. You cannot be friends with your friends tomorrow and be good. I'm going to be your father for the rest of your life. So I got to handle this in a certain way. But I also remember, too, that if I want them to continue to talk to me, continue to come to me, to continue to help them grow as people and be productive and not go off on an emotional tangent and, lock themselves in their bedrooms and stuff, that I have to speak from what little bit I've gleaned, too, in my going to therapy, some things that might actually be able to help them. And I think that Keisha, one of the greatest breakthroughs was when Dawn suggested for Shelly to go to therapy. And she made it vague at first. And then she pulled it back and said, no, therapy has helped me. And that was able to give Shelly to be like, well, maybe I think this lady, they got it put together. They doing well in life. I'm struggling. therapy helped her. Maybe therapy can help me work through some stuff. And she tried it, and she went to a therapy session, and then actually had a breakthrough talking to Keisha because she had been to therapy. That doesn't mean that she's healed, she's delivered. That just means that she recognized something that maybe instead of me going all the way off, maybe I pull back a little bit to give some room for our relationship to grow together. Um, so I think that it's hopefully the one thing that I think this show had an opportunity to show maybe Justin and Keisha were probably, because they are the protagonists of the show, they're the main characters, they needed some therapy their damn selves. So I think it's I hate that they didn't show that, at least the same way that they, even if they took it nuanced and did it in small portions, the same way they did with his neurodivergence, just to mention, you know what I'm saying, that at least they talking to somebody, you know, where they can get the help that they need to move forward. So
I'm not clear. So in regards of to Justin and Keisha, you know, anything else that you picked up regarding their relationship in the show?
I think for me, the interesting thing is, and I've said this many times about many different things in life. When we talk about a season, a reason, and a lifetime,
okay,
right? I think that what this show portrayed was that Justin and Keisha, for this season in their life, which is like kind of like self-discovery in terms of what path they're going to take as young adults going into either college or gap year or, you know, musically or whatever the case may be, or trying to discover who you are.
Yeah.
Like it was like a very poignant season in their lives for them to be in a relationship, or to know each other, or to have difficult conversations, or to, you know, motivate each other to have conversations with parents about things, or really like try to discover who you are and what your identity is and what you want to become, and, you know, all the things, right? And being true to yourself.
Yeah.
So what I really appreciated about their relationship in this season was that,
okay,
you know, she was there to help him have the conversation with his mama about Northwestern and this gap year. He was there to, you know, support her in having the conversation about this tape and what, you know, what that looked like as far as her moving forward and going to Howard and all the things, and, you know, the support for that as well. So I just feel like we have to remember that sometimes, you know, the significance of someone being in our life for whatever season it is, and what that looks like in terms of supporting whatever it is that we're going through. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Okay.
What about you? I know a lot of times you ask the question, but I want to know your answer.
The thing that I really enjoyed about Justin and Keisha is the excitement of first time love. You know, the not knowing. You could feel the electricity in the show. It was very well written, very well directed. The music did a really good job of portraying some of the tones that we may have missed. Justin even spoke and professed some of his love through some of the music when he had first started texting Keisha. The Keisha's uncertainty, the how quickly she was going to kind of like withdraw because she wasn't sure if what he wanted to do. Him not really necessarily trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. Him trying to figure out his neurodivergence in terms of the relationship with her, because he was extremely honest, but that could have backfired, and it did backfire in front of him. So he had to kind of like recalculate that because of the whole the movie theater thing, and then with the shoe thing and all of that going on. So watching them clumsily fall in love was endearing. Watching them sort through their love through their school issues and the rumor mill and all of that. That was like it's pearl clutching. Watching them navigate their relationship through their parents, it was a little bit frustrating. Looking at the possibility of what could be after school is all done, it made me feel hopeful. So there was a whole lot of different emotional ranges of watching Justin and Keisha like grow through one another. And even when they compressed the time and they started doing like the really fast, like speeding through the summers, and you got a chance to see the Instagram posts and stuff, even that was fun to sit there and watch it. So I just like the electricity of it. And it makes me really wonder if, you know, it is getting season 2. It makes me wonder, what does that look like in college, or even like the summer before or after, or can, if they do have some kind of long distance relationship, is that even possible? And then the big, gigantic, massive elephant in the room that nobody is talking about: what does this look like during the time of COVID? You know, so I like all of the cool things of this undiscovered country of their relationship, and seeing how it's able to survive all of these different things. That's the thing I liked about the both of them.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that they were at such a young age. I feel like their love was unconditional, which a lot of times, like, that's difficult for anybody, right? To have like unconditional love, because there's conditions on a lot of things in relationships. So I did find that fascinating that they had that. And like you said, how does that play out? I feel, because I'm like, college is a whole other,
it's a whole
other
thing. Yeah.
And you know, and you can love somebody and still have, you know, and still experience life, right? So that's gonna be fascinating. But I do want to know how they navigate, because with unconditional love, a lot of times it comes back around, right? So I am curious to see. I'm very excited for season 2 and what that's gonna look like.
Okay. Let me see. This came from Truth FLA said the Vineyard episode alone could get an Emmy. There's a lot of episodes that this could have won an Emmy for, but I do feel that I do love the fact that that Keisha went to go get her man. I love that. That was great. Yeah, she was like, I went across the country to go get you.
I'm glad you like that, because I thought it was. I was like, what the heck? No,
but
I wouldn't have done that.
Here's
real talk.
Here's what's funny. Listen, I'm so glad that you said that, MC, because I thought too. I was like, that's a lot. I was like, you know what I'm saying? Have the women of the world had a meeting and talked about whether this was okay? Because that's not. Where they do that at? Like, you know, I just like. I thought that was sometimes in a writing, you put things out there that this is the way you want to see the world and not the way that the world is. And I just like, where they do that at? Like, because for real, at that point, when she showed up half across the country, they went from LA to Martha's Vineyard on the other side of the country. She showed up to get her dude. I was like, at this point, listen, go on, get on one knee. You need to keep her ass. Like, what is you talking about? Where they do that at?
But okay, so am I the only one that's ever like done something stupid for love?
No, let me tell you something. There's a difference. Okay, because let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean,
because I'm thinking about it right now.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
going back in my recesses of my mind. Am I going to Martha's Vineyard? That's doing too much.
She didn't pay the ticket.
I don't give a rat. That's as bad as popping up at somebody's job. We had that conversation.
Oh yeah.
And you popping up at Martha's Vineyard.
Listen. I never said it wasn't stupid. And not the wisest decision.
You ain't popping up at Martha's Vineyard. However. So you gonna tell me? You gonna tell me? You gonna tell me? I'm gonna tell you something. You 17 years old. Your homegirl be like, yo, you want to come to Martha's Vineyard? I'm gonna tell you.
You gonna be like, nah, I ain't gonna go because my ex is there. Stop.
I'm not going to Martha's Vineyard if Max is there. However, I will show up at the club.
Don't do that.
I won't.
Don't do that.
I'm not going to Martha's Vineyard.
You're not going to go to Martha's Vineyard just because your ex is there?
No, I'm not.
You bump your whole head.
Because we can go somewhere
else. I'll wave my ex and be like, hey, don't even worry about it.
Because we over here. That's male perspective.
Getting it.
Now, like I said, I would go to the club, to the lounge, to the library, to AUC Club Woody, but as far as like I ain't gonna let nobody stop.
Here's the thing though. I honestly think the way that went was Keisha's like, hey Chloe, don't you got an auntie that live in Martha's Vineyard? Yeah. What would she think about us coming out to visit her for the summer?
Right.
I absolutely think that's how that went. Keisha brought that shit up and invited herself on a little vacay. And Chloe was like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Or whatever. There was a chance for them to get away. They going to visit family. Oh, and while I'm here, let me go see if I can find Justin. Absolutely.
Yes,
it still seems like a lot.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with that. It is a lot.
Here's the thing. I honestly, Keisha messed up. I can 100% see in her say, okay, when he get back from vacation, I'm gonna make myself available and go, you know what I'm saying, try to
That
get in his
part.
face.
Just the ice cream parlor or something.
That
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see
Yes.
that. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, while he's gone, hold on, let me get these crunches and let me get this revenge body together. Listen, he gonna see, he gonna miss me. He gonna see what he been missing while I was gone, which is a beautiful thing that she did all of that again, writing into the story what you want to see in the world and not how it really is. Because if she didn't show up, whatever that kissing cousins, you know.
Oh yeah, she was about to close. She was about to close him all the way out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She was
like, look,
yes.
Ain't no messages. You better come get this.
Yeah. She's like, listen, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling you. You done grown real nice into that big ass head, boy. Come on over and get this.
Like, I think the 50 messages that Keisha left would have sufficed.
Now that's a little stalkerish.
Well, see, but going to Martha's Vineyard isn't stalkerish.
Nah, a free trip.
Oh my God,
a free trip to Martha's Vineyard. I'm going. I'm going.
Look at this.
I'm going.
Look at this one.
I'm going.
Look at this one.
I don't care who's there. Ain't nobody finna steal that gem out my donut. I'm having myself a good ass time. Do you over there? I'm gonna do me over here. But 50 messages? Like she left a message every day for like a whole summer.
No.
I really like hearing the guys perspective
like
about
he was her personal blog.
If you guys would want something like this and didn't consider it stalking.
You already know you didn't like a pop-up. So I don't know what you talking about. But you be like, oh, Keisha went to
I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying it's not creepy.
Didn't like a pop-up.
It is creepy. I'm not saying it's not creepy. It is creepy. I don't like getting popped up on. That's a violation.
That's what okay.
But love makes you do dumb things. And that's sort of thing I like, especially young love. I've done some dumb things in order to get somebody's attention. So when I saw that and I was like, okay, I can get that. I can understand that. No, Rekkai, you gonna sit and tell me you ain't done nothing dumb to get somebody's attention? Look, he like, don't throw me under that bus. He was like, don't do it. Don't do that.
Let's see, did something not to get nobody's attention, but did something dumb. I think what's today? I think yesterday I did some dumb shit. So it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I'm single, so what we talk about, that's, you know what I'm saying? I do dumb shit all day, every day. That's nothing. But I really think I absolutely, I'm with MC. Her doing that shit was cute, and I would love if a woman did that for me, but that shit is not realistic. And it was a little bit stalkery. I love how Keisha played it off like, I just happened to be on vacay with Chloe. Oh, I bumped into you. Who would have thought? You're here too? Who would have figured? Like, I like how she played this shit off. You know what I'm saying? It just happened to run into his mom and Jade. Oh, hey, y'all just playing the games and stuff. What do you know? What are the odds, girl? Stop it. You can stack the deck to get the odds in your favor. I get it.
And don't let me have been Dawn in that situation, because I would not have been a pleasant mama. I'm gonna be honest with you.
But let them kids be kids. Hey, big shout out to
Dawn wasn't. When she saw her, she's like, oh hell no.
Yeah,
she said, oh, this little heifer, you know, that showed up like she was not nice at all.
Fast ass. Yes.
Up here this is my vacation. This is my family vacation. They ain't your vacation in the barn.
I just wanted to shout out Pink Butterfly, who knows about creepiness in Love Jones, because remake of Love Jones, because there is nothing more
he showed up at her door,
creepy, endearing when he got her credit card information, her check card information, and showed up at her door.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Yo, like today, that is the creepiest, worst idea you could have ever done. But there wasn't a single person in the theater that didn't go, ah. Back then,
times are different.
Times have changed. That was in the 90s, though.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, because. And I guess I'm a little bit removed from, we're thinking about it from our point of view again, when we were children many moons ago, you know, and from the perspective of parents. I don't know, neither one of my older kids, I know my daughter has watched this whole series. I don't know if my sons have. I haven't heard a kid's perspective on what they thought about that in particular. You know, if I was channeling my oldest son now, he would not have responded well to that shit. If she showed up across the country, I don't know, but my oldest son is different too. Shit, you know, once they broke up, she went to prom with another dude. Yeah. My oldest son would have been like, okay, well, on to the next. I done moved on. Like, it ain't no, you pop your ass up and like, what the hell you doing here? You know, he would have been as cold as ice. He'd have been, you know, my younger brother would have been even worse. So I don't know. I think in all of its forms and all of its nuances, I appreciate that.
Sorry, that was them nigga got me on that one.
That just threw me all the way off. It's like,
real talk. Real talk.
Hey, listen, we had that too. I remember back in our day. What was that? Single white female and the hand that rocked the cradle. All the stalker ass movies. Like, I feel that. I feel that. Like, this is not cute. Listen, hold on. Let me call. What's the number to 911 again? Hold on. Let me. You done made that up.
That's crazy.
And I don't understand how y'all say that, but then y'all ain't got no discrepancies over the 50 messages. Like she left like a whole bunch of voicemail messages. That's cute. But
no,
I didn't say
but taking a free vacation is weird.
I didn't say it was cute.
It wasn't about it being cute. That was a bit much too. But she was trying to redeem herself. She messed up and she messed up bad. She was trying to redeem herself. So I get it. It's a bit much. Like after you hit past 8, 9, 10, like, ooh.
I think
you need to get you
to
something
do.
Like
the third one,
especially if you left them all back to back. I don't know. It seemed like she left one every day because they had been apart for months. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
No, it's cute because a girl does it, but if a dude did that, there is nothing cute about that. There is nothing cute about that if a guy does that.
Okay, so same thing with the Martha pop up. That's okay.
Yeah.
Shut up. Shut your ass up.
Was that stirring?
Listen, I agree. That
was yeah. Well, allow me to retort. No, I ain't got nothing to say for that. You're right. Okay. Well, go ahead, Rekkai. My bad.
We all over the place.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you know, because it's a movie, because it's a TV show. It's like, oh, that's cute, but it's like, no. Plus, I know my son would have lost it. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, what I do like about this show, at least for myself, and staying on Keisha and Justin, that it did show it had a very realistic view of Black love, of love in general at that particular age. And like I said, it made me think back to my own first love, and you know, going way back to 9th grade. Like, made me think I ain't thought about that in a long time. But it made me think about that and how I navigated that and things that I did right. And I was like, okay, player. And things I did wrong is like, God, you was a dumbass. You know, and just I don't know if I'm neurodivergent, whatever. I've never been diagnosed or whatever, you know, and I know there's a spectrum, it's a scale or whatever, but I know that in me dealing with that first girl, I was head over the heels about her, but I was the new guy to town. I had a lot of mystery about me. So when we got together, everything was great. But I was weird, you know what I'm saying? I'm a Black dude and I do karate and I play sports, so that's acceptable. Okay. Yeah. But then I was also one of the smartest kids in the class. I read comic books. I talked about weird shit. And it's like, wait a minute. Pause. Hold on. You doing, why aren't you just talking about Jordan all day long? What you talking about space and Star Wars? Don't want to hear about that shit. So I just, you know, at whatever time that wore off, and I continue to be weird and just, you know, fly my blurred, my geek flag. And, you know, but that was a lot to deal with because, you know, I was in a new place with new people, and she was so popular, you know, when she took, you know, she done broke up with me because I was too fucking weird. And then now I got to navigate, figure out through, because now the thing is, okay, well, he's cool, he's good looking, he does this, he does that, but he's a damn weirdo. And I was like, you know, so it's just made me think about how you navigate them. High school waters are treacherous. It's Mean Girls is a movie, but that shit is real life. And mean girls, mean dudes, mean cliques, all that shit. So,
can I just have one quick interjection? Because I'm glad it wasn't just me. Pink Butterfly said, I did not know about the block call messages. I ain't either. I didn't know that was a thing on our phones. And I can't lie. After I saw the episode, I went and checked mine, and it was all. I mean, I had a whole bunch of them, but it was from the people that are trying to sell you stuff. Like, would you like this timeshare?
Telemarketers.
Yeah. Because if I don't know that, if somebody leaves a message that I don't know, and stuff like that, I always put block. Because of all the all the spamming that I used to get.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I went in there and that block message folder was packed. I was like, damn, I didn't even realize that was a thing. Yeah, look.
I didn't know
no
that
idea.
Is it where? I'm curious.
It's
I don't want to know where it is.
Yeah, there's a block message folder. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. It's on it's on your phone.
Wait, look at Rekkai.
Yeah, see, look. Yeah.
Wait, look at Rekkai.
I'm just glad it wasn't just me.
Wait,
look. True,
listen,
I
am today years old when I just found that out.
Wait, where is it?
Go to your voicemails.
Voicemail.
Yeah, look at it. Look, everybody's like, huh? What? You can
that shit was hella
okay, cool. And then go all the way down to the bottom.
There's a lot of.
That's what I'm saying. Go all the way down to the bottom.
It's just deleted messages. I don't have blocked messages.
Go to click the side of it.
Delete messages? Yeah.
Go all the way down again. I think it was at the bottom. I forgot how it was.
No.
Oh,
I don't have that. See, so I am not in the wrong. Anyway, I digress because we're coming up on 2 hours, y'all.
I know we gotta close this up.
No, so interesting thing. I found it fascinating. Rekkai talking about how it reminded him of his adolescence and relationships and first relationship, first love.
Just some more
first love and all the things.
Yeah.
I hope I get to a point when I'm watching these type of series where I don't only view it as where I am now.
Okay, say more.
Yeah, well, because I viewed it as a parent. I viewed it as Dawn. I viewed it as.
I see what you're saying.
So I couldn't. I wasn't able to go back to.
You weren't able to transport yourself a little bit.
And I wish I were, because that would have been kind of fun. Probably, maybe.
Yeah.
And brought up some trauma, I'm sure, in some shape and form. But I'm hopeful that maybe in season 2 I'm able to do that. Okay. Especially because, like I said, since I didn't have conversation with anybody. I watched it by myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to be like, oh yeah, I did, whatever when I was a teenager or whatever. I wasn't able to have that conversation. So
I'm sorry.
Me too. I'm kind of hopeful that I could do that.
Well, the good thing is season 2 is gonna be the college years. So there's still.
No, I can't relive my college years. you done gave me gray hair. This man gave me gray hairs all through college. So I don't know if I want to relive that.
Oh
yeah. Listen. You know what's funny about that? MC said that Syntell gave her gray hairs all through college. However, if I look at his luscious head of hair.
Yeah, I take the grays over loss of. There we go.
That was our adulthood. He was living his best life.
Talk out loud about.
That wasn't me.
She said that wasn't me.
That wasn't me. That was them block calls right there.
And I'm a telemarketer.
I invest with you. You know I love you.
Oh yeah, I know you would box me out on live if that was something crazy. Listen, if there's something you got to roll out, I totally get it. I just wanted to make sure we just the last little bit, because this is the very end. I hope we answered everybody's questions.
Oh no, I don't have to roll out.
I just wanted to give Forever a love fest real quick. Just tell me the things that made you fall in love with this series, and before I want to end on a high note with that.
Oh, absolutely. Do you want to go first, Rekkai, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, just to be clear, Felicia, Miss Cooper, I am absolutely not looking for any lost love. Block voicemails. None of that. I ain't looking for none of that. Listen, here's one thing. My ex-wife is the only one that I broke my own rules for, and that ship has sailed as well. So nope. On to the next. Listen, done.
When you get the lesson, you know, you got to listen.
It's either the listen or the Bruh.
For me, it's the listen.
Yeah.
That's what I know. I got to.
Yo, big old facts.
And it's funny. I think MC, you said something about me saying that, and I didn't even realize that I did that much. That is the church coming out of me. That's all them years I just spent in church trying to get saved because I was out there. I was out there, son. I had to get saved. I had to save my soul. And so yes, that's church coming out of me. Listen.
Okay.
Here's the one thing that we didn't talk about, which I'm surprised you didn't bring it up. And everybody, thank you for this Pink Butterfly. The soundtrack to this damn show.
Yo, I found the damn
the
playlist. Spotify link. Yeah, sent that out. Yeah, I was like, yo, this joint go. Yeah.
Yes. I started my own little because I don't really do Spotify like that. I did, but I don't anymore. I'm so YouTube now. But so I started looking up a lot of the songs in here and putting them on YouTube. I couldn't believe that song. I can't believe it came from Suicide Squad. It's crazy. That song Gangster by Kehlani, that has been on high repeat since I heard it on the show. I was like, oh, that one right there. Yeah. The soundtrack was fire. And it's amazing. One of the things that made this so good in any other series that we watched that had the music was, I think of Arcane off the top of my head, where the music helps transport you to a place and time. And especially for a lot of these songs, because a lot of music in Arcane was new music we hadn't heard before. It was made specifically for the show. And that's why it spoke to so many of the situations in the show. But the songs we heard on here were songs that I remember. They were songs from 2018 and 19 and songs before. And I was like, that was the jam back then. Yes, it's the jam now. Yeah. I think it's really important too, because you could really tell your own story through music, and depending on the song too. Some of the songs, the lyrics, I talk about it, and I've talked about it in a couple of my deep dives. When I first went into basic training in the Army, the thing about basic training was 13 weeks of no music, and I listen. Music is a part of my daily existence. I need music. We had nothing. The two songs, and I'm getting ready to date myself. Damn it, I didn't want to do this. The song that got me through that 13 weeks, I sang it over and over in my head when I needed to go to a place just to escape the bullshit that was going on around me. Mint Conditions, Pretty Brown Eyes, Breaking My Heart, Pretty Brown Eyes, got me through that whole damn basic training, because I'd have lost my shit and went all Full Metal Jacket on them people if I didn't have that song to retreat into. So I get why music became a part of this show, became a part of the DNA of this show, and I hope that they continue that in season 2. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, what was the question?
Just Love Fest. We just want to love on this show real quick.
Love Fest, representation, always. Okay. When it's not your stereotypical, all the things. Yeah. So I'm very grateful, and someone had put in the chat that everybody was normal, right? Yeah. So it's like, these are people that we grew up with. These are people that we know every day. These are us. These are our parents. These are our cousins. This is Uncle Gerald and Aunt Tisha. You know what I mean? Like this is who we are. And I appreciated that about it. Like that I could relate, that I could understand, that I could, have conversation about that. And I liked that, that they had difficult conversations, that they had, they talked about things as if they were normal, because they are for us. Like the conversation that, Eric had with Justin about, how to deal with the police and all the things. Like it was like a part of normal life. Yeah. And it is, you know what I mean? And they didn't make it seem like it was like some way out there abnormal thing that we were talking about or dealing with or showing. So I really appreciate that about this show. And I always love when we have like resolution and, conversation, and we can see how our relationships are and, the dynamics of them. And I just think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I agree with everything that you all said. The soundtrack probably was my number one thing, but I think for me, because me personally, because I am neurodivergent, and I really did go through a lot of the struggles that Justin went through, and it was a challenging time for my mom and dad to kind of sort things out, because this it didn't get the same type of attention then in the 90s or in the 80s than it does now, in the same type of understanding. So it just warmed my heart to see, somebody that looks like me, a story being told, and how a family kind of deals with it under these terms. And it just gave me, just hope. It's like, yeah, there's kids that, like you said before, learn differently, but it's not this feeling of like all is lost because I can't learn like little Billy or little Johnny or whatever it is. But the support team that Justin had, I mean, his teacher was a part of his support team who was like, I'll give you an extra 10 or 15 minutes in order to finish this. Mom was a massive advocate. Dad was just constantly able to actually get through to him. He had Keisha, who was like, hey, this thing could be like a superpower. I liked that was being told in a Black story, because there are many of us who don't get diagnosed and just think that something's a little bit off or a little bit weird or a little bit different. And hopefully this story is enough to maybe inspire somebody to have a little bit more patience with somebody that they think may be a little bit more neurodivergent, or somebody who is neurodivergent, to realize that there are ways that you can get help. So with that being told within the Black community, that just like lifted my spirit. And I want to give all the love for being bold enough to tell that story.
Thank you for that.
What's up, Rekkai? What you got next? I see you. Look at you.
Look at the one. Yeah, right there. One? Yeah, that one's kind of funny. Sorry.
That's what I was laughing at.
I thought that I knew that. I knew he was laughing at that. Yeah. I just knew, because I know y'all. I know y'all.
Yep, that's what I was laughing at. Because listen,
let me get one for the road.
Well, I was married for a long time, so this was not a thing the last time I was single. That wasn't exit sex. I learned about that from Ace Main, doing one of them Peter Parker little skits he did. I didn't know exit smashing. Where they do that at? I didn't know that was a thing. I don't like your ass. We done broke up. That's it. Like, peace out. I was like, okay. I'm familiar now. I didn't know that was a thing, but yeah, that's a thing. So.
That's hilarious.
I think that's a good place to kind of like stick a fork in this. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We went a little bit long. We went like 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. Thank you, everybody.
Let me throw out a question to the chat, because we didn't address it in here, and I didn't really want to address it because I felt like we would have went down a rabbit hole that was not reminiscent of us having a love fest for this show.
Okay.
A lot of again, in the socials, a lot of the vitriol, some of the hate I saw for this series came from some other folks, because they could not accept the fact that this book done by Judy Blume, the original book Forever from 1975, was written about a Caucasian couple, and they completely changed so much of the book to create this show. I don't know. I don't even know how I want to phrase this. I just want to say, like, I didn't want us to get into it because I felt like we'd have went down a rabbit hole that's unnecessary. And it would took away from the fact of how much we loved this show. But is it okay? Because I know the whole, when you start switching genders and switching races of people in certain properties, people get bent out of shape. I think that it's okay. And I thought they told a wonderful story, and all of the tropes and themes and everything in the story still were there, and I resonated with it. But is that a whole issue? And how should that be addressed? Because it's not the last time it's going to happen. And I think that it worked. I think it worked beautifully this time that we did this sort of adaptation. But what if it's one of our books and it's adapted the other way? Do we have
man, they can kick rocks at this. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like Black folks' stories, stay out of Black folk business. It's simple. It's real simple. There's a lot of other channels you can go to. You'll be strong. You'll be strong.
You'll be strong. You'll be strong.
Yeah.
I've never read the book.
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes to how I feel about
you don't like it.
that
There's other
book.
stuff you can watch.
Yeah, I never read the book, but I did watch the show. So what does that tell you about my interest? But however, I watch a good story. I watch a good story. I watch representation when people look like me and they tell my story, regardless of where they may have grabbed inspiration from. No story is original nowadays.
No,
it's just how you tell it.
Yeah.
So I'm in the rock kicking quarry with this one over here.
Yeah. You'll be strong. Yeah.
Like,
strong.
I'm in the rock kicking quarry. I'm gonna get a t-shirt.
It ain't no. We ain't giving nothing but this show love over here.
Yeah,
over here is love.
And just so we're clear, I agree with you. Also, Mara Brock Akil, Judy Blume's blessing before this, and Judy Blume herself loved the story and loved what she was doing with it. And as a side note, the sales, ain't nobody for real thought about Judy Blume's books in a long time. Her sales skyrocketed when this came out.
I'd imagine so.
HBO was so bold a few years back where they took an Eisner Award, like an award-winning book, and changed it and made it, a Black story. And I thought it was fantastic. It's called Watchmen, and
God, I love that.
Jumped off the screen, and people was pissed. And I was like, well, be pissed then, because you be strong.
You be all right. You be all right. When they took Lovecraft Country, and you already know that person felt about.
Even though we're not even going to go into the whole thing about what they just did to Black Panther in the comics. So,
No, because I have a smile on my face. And
absolutely.
I want to keep that.
Wonderful.
I want to keep that. So we're going to leave that alone. Look, this has been great. I hate that we do have to tap out because I want everybody to enjoy the rest of the Saturday. I also want y'all to enjoy me and Mikel-Claire's reaction to Sinners, if you haven't already.
Oh my gosh, so good.
I also want you to get ready for me and Rekkai's really, really deep dive, where we're going to start doing some serious breaking downs of some of the scenes and some of the more key moments in Sinners as well. So that Sinnerverse is going to continue. So listen, if you want to get to know who these incredible people are, we'll start with you, Mikel-Claire. How can they reach you?
All they have to do is look in their blocked call messages and they will see a call from me directly in their messages, about 50 of them. And then I will look for me at Martha's Vineyard in a couple weeks. No!
He thinks it's cute, so it doesn't matter. He thinks it's cute. It's all good.
I'll pop it up next time.
All good.
I'll pop it up.
He's like, come on, girl.
No, it was cute then. It was cute then.
Yeah, don't pop up. Don't pop up, homie. What is it gonna say? Oh, super easy, lemon squeezy peasy. I'm all over the place right now. Yes, so there'll be a link in the description. It'll be very easy, as always.
Okay. And you already know Rekkai is in the building. Yo, if you really enjoy the way that Rekkai chops all this up, you don't have to go through my spiel. It's on autopilot. Do yourself a favor, head over to Rekkai's YouTube page because over there he gives these tremendous deep dives that kind of talk about what we're talking about right now. Gives you different perspective, and you see it from his eyes. Rekkai, tell the people how they can get in contact with you.
I can't get over the fact. It's like, I can see you right now just doing body roll. Like, come on, girl, stalk me.
I see you, girl. I see you.
Yeah. I think, I think since we were talking about Sinners, I think if you knew she was a vampire, you'd like, well, come on in. I'm going to invite you. Come on in. Right here. Get me right there. Like, come on. Y'all, well, I have so much fun every time I'm on with y'all. Like, it's great. It's great being on with you and Syntell. We have a ball. But when the both of y'all together, man, y'all something else. Y'all something else. Oh, it's so fun. Wait till we do the next bad movie night or next comedy.
Bad movie night. Yeah.
Soon.
Man. Anyway, if y'all like how I talk, how I tend to run off at the mouth, or whatever you like, how I say things, the way I say them, please visit me on Patreon. You should already be a member of Syntell's Patreon. You should already be in the Discord. But if you have a few shekels left over, please visit me on my poor little Patreon. You know, I can maybe afford a combo meal or something. I don't know. And if you can't do that, come on by my YouTube. Come on by my youtube.com/Noop from the Ville, NUPEFROMDAVILLE. Don't worry, if I said it too fast, it will be in the description. Remember, everything that we watch, we always use this. You got to use this, but it's even better when you can use this. Thank you, both of you chefs.
Oh, hey, thank you, chef. And thank you all for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you on the next live. All right, y'all, take it easy. Peace.